it is really appreciable. Judiciary is duty-bound to uphold the constitutional values and to enforce the constitutional limitations, which is the essence of rule of law. The judiciary has to follow the rule of law and to function within the permissible parameters. An independent judiciary is indispensable for a democratic set of government under the rule of law. While deliberating upon the essence of rule of law, Justice Bhagwati, in the case of Minerva Mills versus Union of India, observed that its cardinal principle of our Constitution, that no one, howsoever highly placed, and no authority, howsoever lofty, can claim to be the sole judge of its own power under the Constitution, or whether its action is within the confines of such power laid down by the Constitution. The judiciary is the interpreter of the Constitution and is assigned with the task of determining the extent of power conferred on each of the branches of the government, whether it is limited, and if so, what are the limits, and whether any action of that branch transgresses such limit. It is for the judiciary to uphold the constitutional values and to enforce the constitutional limitations. That is the essence of rule of law. The Supreme Court has put up a stamp of approval on the observation made by Justice Douglas. Law has reached its finest moment when it has freed the man from unlimited discretion of some ruler. Where discretion is absolute, man has always suffered. United States versus Vanderlust, 1951. And Lord Mansfield, who stated that in the classical terms, discretion means sound discretion, guided by law. It must be governed by rule, it must not be arbitrary, it must not be vague, it must not be fanciful. We have another celebrated case, Bachchan Singh versus State of Punjab. It was decided in year 1982. Justice Bhagwati in this case has emphasized that rule of law excludes arbitrariness and unreasonableness. Justice Bhagwati observed that rule of law permeates the entire fabric of Constitution and indeed forms the basic feature. To ensure this, he has suggested that it is necessary to have democratic legislature to make laws, but its power should not be unfettered, and there should be an independent judiciary to protect the citizens against the excesses of executive and the legislative power. In A.K. Karaipak versus Union of India, the court observed that under our Constitution, rule of law pervades the entire field of administration is regulated by the rule of law. In a welfare state, it's inevitable that jurisdiction of the administrative bodies is increasing by a rapid rate. The concept of rule of law would lose its vitality if instrumentalities of the state are not charged with the duty discharging their functions in a just and fair manner. In yet another case, Yusuf Khan versus Manohar Joshi, the Honorable Supreme Court has laid down the proposition that it is the duty of the state to preserve and protect the law and the Constitution, and that it cannot permit any violent act which may negate the rule of law. Justice Khanna, in the case of ADM Jabalpur versus S. Shukla, observed that rule of law is antithesis to arbitrariness. Rule of law is now the accepted norm of all the civilized societies. Everywhere, it's identified with the liberty of the individual. It seeks to maintain the opposite notions of individual liberty and the public order. The High Court of Jammu and Kashmir, in the case of Muhammad Ashraf Malik versus State, observed that a democratic society is governed by the rule of law. Even in extreme and adverse circumstances, the state is to be guided by the rule of law.